Hello, Frizzle Fleet. Coming in at number 25 out of the last 25 books I read is How High We Go in the Dark. And in just 6 words, this book was depressingly real pandemic life, but sci-fi? This is not a bad book. I just have a lot of negative feelings towards it because it's a very sad collection of short stories about this world that is in a terrible pandemic and everything is awful and everyone is dying. And though before reading this book, I wouldn't have said that I read books for escapism, I think after reading this book, I say, I need some more escapism in the books. And it just made me really, really depressed. I mean, if that's your jam, it doesn't do it poorly. It's well written, but it was just exactly not my jam. This was the anti-jam. 1 star. At number 24, we have War of Art. And in 5 words, repetitive advice. Who even knows? This is a book for artists to get over artist block, to reach their full potential. And basically every page is just, you're gonna get frustrated or disappointed or discouraged in some way, and don't let it get to you. And after like reading 3 pages of it, I was done. I totally agree that a part of any artistic process should be a way to overcome the fear of making something terrible, and should also be a way to get and keep yourself motivated. I mean, of course, no one solution is going to fit everyone. Here's the one that works for me. Take chances, make mistakes, get messy. Oh, but also setting self-deadlines. Would also recommend that for artistic processes. Like, you can find a new video on this channel every Frizzle Friday until I don't meet that goal. But so far I haven't missed it yet. Anyway, 2 stars. Number 23, Blood and Fire. And in 6 words, fun but incoherent characters and plot. This is kind of urban fantasy, a little bit reaching into more the low fantasy territory. 2 stars. Number 22, The Desert Spear, and in 6 words, overwhelmingly boring, then too much machinations. So this is a book 2. I also read book 1 this month, and book 1 comes much higher on this list, and I am so angry at book 2 for coming in so low. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on this book and many other books during this video, I have dedicated review videos for most of them. Check down in the footnotes for links. The first third of the book, we were following a character that I didn't care about, the plot wasn't interesting, and it just made me hate that character even more. And then we slowly backslided into weird love plots that I could not ship or get invested in that was not coherent with the larger themes or plots of the series. I mean, it's not like the prose was poorly written, it's just everything else was. Anyway, 2 stars, moving on. Number 21, Lost and Found. In 6 words, too many rereads. Plot is stale. So if you watched my video, Worst to Best, 50 books reviewed and ranked in 15 minutes, you might remember this book because it came up very high on that list. You know who else watched that video? My dad. And then when I was home for the holidays, my dad was like, wouldn't it be fun if you read a book out loud to us? And I was like, sure. And then he's like, I have one in mind because you praised it so good on your last video. And so I read aloud Lost and Found to my family. They all loved it. I had just read this book a few months previous, and the plot was just boring for me at this point. I didn't really enjoy it anymore. And I think now I've read this book like 5 times in the past 3 years. And I think I hit the limit on rereads in a short time. It follows the teenage boy who has an affinity, kind of a psychic power with lost objects and their owners, and then he helps solve some crimes, finds friends, gets character development, coming of age, etc. It's a fun YA book. I liked it a lot. Now I like it a little less, but that's kind of my own fault. 5 stars though. I still have a lot of love for this book. Number 20, Return of the Dragonslayers. In 2 words, Wooden Dialogue. This is book 10 of the Fablehaven series, and it's not a bad end to the series, but I think I have outgrown this. Like, all the characters felt the same when they were talking. Most of the sentences felt like exposition dumps. Let me just read to you what I put as my Goodreads review, because I think that summarizes my other thoughts on the book really well. I see that me and the author weren't quite on the same page. I thought it was cool magic. Turned out it was evil. The resulting redemption arc was not satisfying. 2 stars. Number 19, Sandman Volume 2, Doll's House. In 2 words, pretty overrated. The art is pretty, but I don't see why so many people love this comic. There are so many large concepts in this book, but not characters that I feel like I really want to follow the journeys of. 2 stars. The Silver Bullets of Annie Oakley. In 2 words, conceptual historicity. This book is Annie Oakley, real-life historical figure, but if she also had magic and had encounters with werewolves, which makes it sound more exciting than it actually is. I will give this book the praise that its vocabulary is top-notch. I don't want to brag too much, but I read a lot of books, and therefore my vocabulary is pretty large, and I don't often have to go to the dictionary when I'm reading a book. But for this book, I did pretty often, and that was really refreshing. I loved learning all these new words. So A+, would recommend the author for that, but otherwise 3 stars. Okay, and from this number up, these are books that I would really recommend that you read in general. Number 17, Demon Magic and a Martini. In 2 words, developmental popcorn. This is the 4th book of an urban fantasy series that I have been enjoying. I don't know, my enthusiasm train is slowly running out of chug chug choo choo. But what I did appreciate about this book is, 1, it's just a really fast-paced read, eat that up like popcorn, love it. But also, the character did get some deep development in this book. She starts out the book kind of in denial about a problem that her friend is having with demon magic and stuff. But then by the end of the book, she has actively decided to change and stop being in denial and make herself part of the solution. 4 stars. Oh, by the way, when I'm giving it a star rating, I'm kind of thinking, how much would I enjoy rereading this book? And when I'm putting it on this ranked list, I'm thinking, did I enjoy reading this book more or less than the things above and below it? It's all subjective and opinions don't really matter anyway. No, not that opinions don't matter. That's not what I meant. These opinions do not. I'm just ranking books. Numbers 15 and 16, Spider-Man novel, The Darkest Hours, Spider-Man comic collection, Coming Home. I read these as a pair, so they get to be put together. In 5 words, Spidey Adventures, Mary Jane rules. At least in the novelization. I really liked her there. I've got an entire video talking about the pros and cons between the comic and the novel, so check that out. 3 stars, 4 stars. Faded Blades. In 5 words, Romeo and Juliet in space, but they're also both trained killers and the heads of their families, and then they have to go on a quest together, and I really enjoyed this. It's just a fun little short novella, and it's got a fun romance, it's got fun action scenes, it's well written, 4 stars. Next, 2 books of Daredevil comics from the Mark Waid run. In 2 words, impressive layouting. The plot of these books is pretty good. In fact, these are rereads. These comics are what got me into loving comics so much. But every time I reread them, I see the way that the layout of the different panels, of the people in the panels, of the speech bubbles in the panels, of the text boxes in the panels, all reinforce the story that they're trying to tell. It's not just words that coincidentally have pictures going along with it. The way that the panels are laid out shows you the pacing of the story, shows you what Daredevil's attention is on at the time. It's all a tool to get you into that first-person narration from Daredevil. 5-star comics, just for the power of the art in them. Number 11, the best Christmas pageant ever. In 3 words, hilarious Christmas tradition. So, from my discussion of number 21 earlier on this list, you might have realized my family seems to have a thing for reading books out loud. And since I was very little, my dad every Christmas would read this book aloud to us. It's a middle grade chapter book, so we would do it over the course of many days leading up to Christmas. And then sometime when I was a teenager, I took over for him. This is a hilarious book about a church that every year puts on a Christmas pageant. And then one year, through a series of unfortunate events, all the kids that get casted into the Christmas pageant are like the town bully kids. And then it's about both of them learning the meaning of Christmas, but the emphasis is really on the other people in the church realizing that they shouldn't be judging this disreputable family. And through that, the town learning the true meaning of Christmas. So this book is genuinely laugh out loud funny, has very cozy Christmas vibes. Would recommend it to anyone looking for those two things. 5 stars. 6 of Crows. In 5 words, confusing heist, but fantastic characters. The strength of this book is that every character has a reason and a good motivation for going on the heist that they're going on. This book takes place in the Shadow and Bones fantasy world, where a group of 6 teenagers is going on a very political, intense action heist. And though I was never super invested in the heist, and I felt like their plan was oftentimes convoluted and further exacerbated that feeling in me in that we didn't get to know what the plan for many of these steps were until it was already happening out from under us. But this book is certainly a fun read. And I do think there's a reason that so many people love it, because like, it is that good. 4 stars. Number 9, A Rip Through Time by Kelly Armstrong. In 6 words, historical mystery, modern, likable protagonist. That's only 5 words. This book was fast-paced, fun, an actually really nice mystery. But I think the real gem is the slow relationships that our main character Mallory builds with the other people in Victorian Scotland. She's very much a fish out of water and trying to pretend like everything is fine, which gives her very distinct weaknesses. And as she overcomes those weaknesses, the friendship she makes through realizing that she's judging people in Victorian England based more on what she imagines it should be than what it actually is. I don't know where that sentence was going. Anyway, I liked the book. I liked it so much, actually. This is so incoherent. Let me just read you what I wrote on Goodreads when I had more brain cells. Flawless pacing, engaging mystery, active characters. I'm so glad I picked up this time travel detective novel. 4 stars. Numbers 2 through 8, books 5 through 11 of the Sandman Slim series. In 2 words, contemplative roughness. But if I was actually ranking them, book 11 would be lower on this list. But other than that, I'm not sure which ones I would rate higher and lower. They're all kind of tied here for second. The premise of this series is that our main character, Sandman Slim, was unjustly imprisoned in hell for a decade. And the series is both a collection of adventures he has in the regular world, stopping the apocalypse from happening over and over in different ways every book, but also the main through line is his character development as he adjusts back to normal life, because he definitely lost a lot of social skills and the ability to just chill. I am utterly impressed by the way that this series intertwines its themes and characters so well. The plot is always pushing Sandman Slim to new interesting character development places, and though Sandman Slim is very rough around the edges, the thing that I love most about these books is the time that they take to give him room to contemplate who he's becoming, why he's becoming it, and who he wants to be. So they've got it all! They got romance, they got action, they've got thoughtfulness. I would recommend books 1 through 10. And if you want to know more about my thoughts on book 11, you can watch my book 11 video linked in the footnotes. 4 stars for the series. And number 1, The Warded Man! In 2 words, thematical invention. Do you remember number 22 on this list, which was a sequel? This is book 1. I know, it's so disappointing that book 1 gets the top spot and book 2 gets number 22. But book 1, 5 stars. I loved it so much. And if I capture in a bottle what I love so much about this book, it can be narrowed down to a few things. First, the characters. You get to know them very slowly over the course of their coming of ages. And they all have specific goals and people that they are becoming, and that's very satisfying to watch. Also, the world building is fantastically inventive. It's a world where every night the monsters spawn, and then that informs the way that the cultures of the world and the themes play out, because there's a lot of themes of the loss of knowledge and trying to get that back and then figuring out what's the best way to spread that knowledge around. Because humanity has been beaten back again and again, and through that, the degradation of knowledge has gotten more and more intense until they can no longer fight back effectively against the demons because of this. And then that theme ties right back right into the characters, where their journeys are often that connected to finding ways to fight the demons and gather new knowledge. There's some nice relationship plots, there's some nice action sequences, there's traveling the world, there's getting out and back into your comfort zone. This book's got it all. If you made it to the end of the video, give us a numbers emoji in the comments. And let me know what you think of any of these books, or what I should read next. Thank you for watching.